In this video, I'm going to show you some ways to filter some class schedules from the Fall 2024 Emeritus class schedule that you can get to from this site up here that's highlighted. You go to view the schedule on its own page, brings up a Google Sheet, and you'll notice it says view only up here because it's actually controlled by, she runs this website here, but you can actually do some customization of the view that you're seeing here. So what I usually do is start from A2, put your cursor on A2, drag it over to M2, which is the end of the notes column here, and then you head over here to this filter column up here. It says filter views, so you want to filter views, create a filter view. That puts these little filter icons next to the headings on the table right here. So the first thing I would do, what I usually do is I go to modalities and I just filter for, I clear them all and I filter just for the ones that are online sync because I prefer to do my classes online. So when I click OK, it now has filtered all of the classes for just those that are listed as online sync as it shows here. Now you may want to filter it by other things, by instructors. You can filter by instructors if you want to look at a specific class or something offered by a given instructor. Once you do modality, you can go back and change it to the original, select all 6, and it just defaults back to the original here. You can also go to something like the subject matter if you're interested in just, say, arts. You can clear them all and just click arts, or we'll try art S and art X just to see what they are. And of course you have to scroll up to find the OK button. And that will narrow these courses down to just those that are under the subject art X or art. Now I will just put it back to select all 14. To move on to the next subject that I want to show here. So if you want to do any more manipulations of this information, you're going to have to put it onto your own Google Sheet. But you do that by, if you have a Google account with a Google Drive, go to File and make a copy. And what that does is it says it makes a copy of that file onto your Google Drive. Now this is a copy on my own Google Drive. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here to column L, and I'm going to right click, and I'm going to add a column to the right. So that puts in this new column M. Make it a little bit smaller here so we can see it. And I'm just going to put a header on here called enroll ? So this is sort of when I'm enrolling in the classes. And again, if I go up here to the top left corner, it selects the whole sheet, and I can add the borders onto it just because it makes it look a little bit nicer when you're navigating around here with the borders. So once I'm add the enroll column, then I'll go back and I'll do that same thing I did earlier with the adding the filters in. A little bit different when it's in your view. So you highlight the headers at the top. It's now up to N2, and then you go over to this filter button here and you add a filter to it here. Same thing as before, but now this is on your own, in your own view. I basically own this sheet now. So I can go through here and just choose the classes and stick say a Y in there. I can make it neater by selecting that column and say centering everything down here just because it looks nicer that way. And I can just pick classes that I'm interested in. So you really have to go through there and decide what you want to look at, what you want to take. Or you can do the filtering of the classes either by subject or by modality, which is online. I'll clear it and do online sync only. So here I can go through here and finish doing my yeses and nos. Yes. Well, you don't have to say no, just yes. This is just randomly checking these classes. So once you get these classes selected by yes and no, now you can search. Now you can filter by those those Y's in the column, and it will just narrow down to the ones you put Y onto. So now you have just the class numbers of the ones you're interested in. Of course, you can go back and adjust that anytime you want. You just have to go back to there and say select all two, and you're back to just the online web courses. So I've already done that here. Let's take another option here. Okay, so here's a list of classes that I marked down as yes, and then I filtered on my yes answers, which filters it down to just the ones that I'm interested in taking. So now I have this sort of general schedule here, and I want to put it into something that I can actually use. So I'm going to take this, starting from this corner here underneath the headers, and I'm going to drag my cursor down here to the bottom of instructor here. So now I've highlighted all the classes that I'm interested in. I'm going to press Control C, or you can obviously you can right click and do copy. Same thing. Then I'm going to go to this sheet that I've called class list. Okay, and I'm going to paste. I go up in the corner A2 and I'm going to press Control V and paste. Now there's another thing that I like to do when I paste it in this spot here is I'm going to actually paste as specials as values only. Okay, that makes it a little bit cleaner because it doesn't come over with the colors. So now this gives me a pretty decent look at my classes. I can see this is Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9 to 10:30. Tuesday and Thursday, TRs for Thursday. Mondays and Wednesdays, Monday and Wednesday. And if you make sure that before I move on to the next step, if you make sure these days are separated, the multiple days are separated by a right slash like that, it works out pretty good. So this next step is going to be a little bit more advanced, and I'm going to actually cover that in a second try. So I'm going to just leave it at this right now. And what I'm going to do is turn this into a calendar. So it will go into my Google Calendar and it will add all these classes into my calendar for me. And I'll show you how that's done in the second follow-on video to this. But I hope this kind of makes sense in terms of the things you can do with the view-only mode. And then if you copy it onto your own work or your own Google Sheet, you can do a lot more to it. You can add columns to it. You can edit things, and you can filter, you can sort, do all sorts of stuff, and then copy and paste. That's all for now. I'll have a follow-on video showing how to get it into your calendar. This is sort of where I left off in the last video. This is how to get your classes once you have them filtered in the position you want them, and you're going to copy the important information to this new sheet called class list. Now I have it nice and white. I'm going to paste special values only. That way it gets rid of the background colors, just makes it a little bit easier to read. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to run an app script right here that you have to download the extension to use Google Apps. It's not hard to do. I can explain that at a different point, but here's basically the app script that's associated with that particular sheet. So every time it mentions the active sheet up here, the active spreadsheet and the active sheet, it's referring to this class count, this right here called class list under this fall 2024 class calendar. That's the name of my Google sheet. So it's going to take all this information, it's going to parse out the start times and end times and days of the week, and it's going to put it into a calendar. So from here, I can just run, what I'll do is I'll show you my calendar. Right now it shows September is empty. It's under the calendar called test. So I'm going to go back here and I'm going to change the number of weeks to make it 18 weeks because that's how long the semester is. 18 weeks. Actually, probably a little bit more because of holidays, but I'll just set it to 18 right now. And then I have to save that. And I'll go back to the spreadsheet here. And that, when I run this custom menu thing, it already puts this subroutine into my Google Sheets menu up here. So I could just import class calendar. And it will take a little while to run this script. Huh, that took shorter than I thought. If I go back to my spreadsheet now, my test calendar is filled in completely with all the classes that I wanted to take. And it's good through, you can see it's good through November, December. So it automatically does all the continuation of the classes, repeating classes for those times. And I can also show it by week, which is really the interesting part of it. So that's really what I wanted to do, was show where the classes overlap. And you can see there's pretty good separation of all the classes I'm taking. There's these I added in an arts and crafts class over here just to show how it overlaps. So right here it shows that there's two classes that overlap on Friday, 1 to 4, 1 to 4. So this shows you that there's a conflict here. There's also some conflicts here with the communication stuff, the communication with technology, and I'll go into that in a second here. I'll show you. Go back to this calendar here. You see that some of these classes, like the Android, actually starts in October, and the Windows computer starts in December. So those are not taken care of in that app script. It's just a little bit too complicated for this right now. So when I go to my Google Calendar, there are certain classes that look like they're overlapping, but they start later on in the semester. So I'd have to go in there and manually change them. Run through it. What this app script does, it's written in JavaScript or Google App Script, but it's basically JavaScript. And I got ChatGPT to build most of it. I just gave it the right prompts to ask it what to do, and then I followed up with a bunch of different additions to it. And I'm not going to go into great detail about it, but basically it looks at my calendar called test in my calendar. The first time you run this, you have to give it permission to look at your calendar, and that takes a little bit of going around because Google Sheets and Google Calendar don't necessarily talk to one another. You have to give it permission, and then you have to agree that you can modify your calendar externally. And since it's all my Google account, it's not a big deal. Anyway, so here it's made up of different subroutines. So the first one here says clear the calendar. So it runs down to clear the calendar out here. I should just go in order, but it clears the calendar. It basically says start in September and go for 1 year and clear the calendar out. It also looks and makes sure that you have the calendar by that name test, because it found that it knows that there's a calendar named test. The interesting part is here, this is where it grabs the information from your spreadsheet itself. It's looking for the different, runs through each row that's in your spreadsheet and takes the column names out of it. Column 4, 5, 6, it shows you this column D, E, and H and all that to put it into the calendar. So it gets a calendar, clears the calendar. Then this is another interesting part. It actually takes the time, and if it's not in if it's not in a standard time format, it turns it into standard time format by using this. It's called a regex. Regular expression functions down here that basically take every conceivable option that the data is presented in, whether it's 2:PM, 1400, with a space in between, all these different formats that the time can take. It will practice. This is the part here where it says parse days. This is where it goes through there and figures out what the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So the TR is considered Thursday for Thursday, and it runs through and it handles. It separates out the Monday, Wednesday, Friday into separate calendar events, so it can put it into the calendar appropriately. So continuing on with my discussion about the app script. At the very bottom here, it shows this function on open. It's the user interface that actually adds the import class calendar to my Google Sheet, which is kind of neat. So when I go back there, I'll show you where that turns. I'm going back to the function here. You can see under this custom menu, it says open classes to calendar. That's where that came from here. You could also go to extensions and look at the app scripts that are associated with this. It brings you back to the same spot I was just at. That's another way to get to the app scripts. So here you go to extensions, and then you can also do macros, which are basically recording app scripts. So it can record all the steps you do in a Google Sheet, so you can reproduce those easily. Another kind of nice thing here is if I had that conflict, say I had that conflict on Friday with the digital cell phone photography, and the story of our lives. Let's say I don't like that conflict, so I can just take this row out here and I can just get rid of it. And now I got rid of that conflict, so I can just rerun the custom menu, rerun it, run the script, cancel the script. I'm going to go to my app script and I'm going to change this to just do 1 week. Save it. Then I'm going to run it in this mode because then I can actually look at what it's doing. It's got an execution log here that kind of shows you what it's doing if it actually gets to that point. In here you can see it's called a logger.log. These logger.log statements in here tell the script to put it down here in the execution log. It says down here execution completed, so I'm going to go to my calendar to see if it's been updated. Yep, there they are. It's updated for just 1 week's worth. And let me go and show you the calendar by the weekly basis and see if my Friday conflict is taken care of. So got to go to the next week, previous week. So now I have Friday. You don't have any conflict on Friday. It's cleared that up. I still have the communication classes that overlap, because one of them is starting in September, and the other one starts after that. It's done. So I've just done it for the first week of class. I can easily go back and change this to, get rid of this here, change this to 18 weeks or however it is. Make it 4 weeks, so it's still in September. And I'll go back to, save that, go back to my calendar, and let's see if I can do a Control Z. But yep, I can put that arts and crafts back in. And What I really need to do is put in the optional titles. Maybe that's what I'll do next. Put in the optional titles rather than the course titles. Maybe that's where the screw up is. It should be column F. Yep, this should be row 5. I mean, column 5. And I don't want it, yeah, I'll stick it with 4. Run. Loading in. Okay, so here, now I have on Wednesday, I have Windows Computer. I have, instead of the class name, I have the alternate name. So you can see here, when you look at the title, it says Android 10.17 to 11.9, 10.7 to 11.9. So I can now manually change that. So I'll edit this and have it starting on 10.9. Save. So there's the Android class here starting on 10.9. All for now.